Here's a tweet from Kylie Hemmert. Castle Rock returns this week, and I can't wait to watch Lizzy Kaplan slay, literally and figuratively, as Annie Wilkes. Take a look.
Can
you listen to me now? People in places like this try to make you one of them, so they can use you and throw you away. But I won't let them. It'll be blood on Christmas before I let them. That's the story, soup to nuts.
Here with me now is the star of season 2, Lizzy Caplan. Welcome.
Thanks.
Your character is truly terrifying to me.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, you said that you were actually a fan of Castle Rock and of Misery, which is the movie that is about her. So when you were at home watching this show and watching the movie on your own couch, did you ever imagine that you would actually be part of season 2?
No, I never did, oddly. I know one of the showrunners. He worked on Masters of Sex, another show that I did. And so I reached out to him over email just to congratulate him on some stuff in the first season, never thinking it would lead to anything. Like, honestly, not. And then this came around. So he says that it's related. So always email people.
There you go. Always email people.
Yeah.
That's the moral of that story. Well, you play the precursor to Kathy Bates' version of this character. So how did you kind of balance making her both your own character and then also incorporate some of those earlier elements?
Well, we always knew that our Annie Wilkes was going to be different than that Annie Wilkes. Yes, she's younger, but the circumstances that she's living in are very different than that Annie Wilkes. That Annie Wilkes has been isolated for quite a few years. She lives alone in this house until she grabs Paul Sheldon, and then he's her roommate, for lack of a better term, for a bit. But our Annie, she's got this teenage daughter. She's still working. She's still trying to self-medicate to keep all of her own mental health issues at bay. And so it's just by the circumstances alone, I think that our Annie will feel very different than that one.
So Annie Wilkes is ranked the 17th most iconic villain in film history on AFI's Heroes and Villains list. So when you had to leave the set for the day, how did you let go of this character?
Well, this character it was such a blast to play this woman, to just get to have these huge unhinged moments. And also it's a vanity-free performance. You know, I barely wore any makeup. All my clothes were baggy and unflattering. And I found it all really liberating. I
can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine that.
It's really nice to not have to try to look pretty every day at 6 a.m.
Something that's interesting is that a lot of times the horror and thriller genre is actually used as a social allegory or a stand-in for various kinds of social ills or social issues. Will we see any of that in this series?
There is a bit of that in this series, and I totally agree with that. I didn't really think much of the horror genre, literally did not think much about it until recently, in the past few years, and I completely agree. I think it's one of the best genres to slip in messaging about bigger issues. In our show, there is a bit of that, and I think you'll be able to figure out what it is. It's more the other storylines, less Annie's stuff, but it's there.
Well, you're also starring in the Apple TV crime series, Truth Be Told. You actually played twins. So who are they? And I mean, what is that experience like of having to play two people?
It's weird. It seems like a lot of people are playing twins these days, so we should all sit down and discuss each experience. But yeah, there's some things to make them look different. Blonde. One of them is blonde and one of them is brunette. They have different sort of outward styles, and they're very, very different people. So in that way, it's sort of easy to find the characters. But when you're playing opposite yourself in a scene, you just have to do everything twice. Yeah. And it takes twice as long. And you're kind of acting opposite a stand-in, and then you switch over to the other one. You have to remember what you did and not really pay attention to what the stand-in is doing. So it's just super technical and confusing. I have no idea if it worked. I haven't seen a single frame of that show, but hopefully it did.
I hear Octavia Spencer is also in the series. I mean, it seems like it would just be incredible.
She's the best. She's everything you want Octavia Spencer to be, and more.
Well, I must ask you about Mean Girls, which just celebrated its 15th anniversary. Yes, Lacey Chabert said that she would, of course, revisit her character Gretchen if she had the opportunity. How do you feel? Would you play Janis again if you had the opportunity?
I mean, I don't know what that looks like. I mean, like Mean Girls.
I don't know. In the movie,
Mean Moms,
something like that.
I mean, listen, if everybody was on board, if the script was anywhere near as good as the original one was, then I don't see how I could say no to that. But I'm not really waiting by the phone.
Sure, for that
the
one.
Mean Girls reboot.
I mean, it's tough because so many of the one-liners have really withstood the test of time. And it's funny, there's a viral Twitter thread that jokes about how Janis is really the villain of Mean Girls.
Really?
Yeah, in retrospect, it was a joke, but people got really into this Twitter thread. There are some of the tweets. Basically, it's like, is she a good human being or is she not a good human being? It kind of takes everybody through.
She's layered.
She's layered. In retrospect, you think she was maybe a little bit of a mean girl?
Yeah, of course. She was like way craftier than the other mean girls. She was like a mean girl with the spy plans.
Yes, with spy plans.
Yeah.
With purpose.
With purpose.
Yes. Well, another project of yours, an iconic project that is also celebrating a milestone, is Freaks and Geeks, which is 20 years old.
This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, what about the show do you think gave it such a passionate following?
Well, it certainly didn't have a following when it was on TV.
Yeah.
It was canceled early. I think it's just, you look at all the people involved. Obviously, so much of the cast has gone on to do great things. But Paul Feig, who is an incredible director, I mean, that was his baby. And he was really the heart of it. Judd Apatow as well. But I feel like Paul was those little geeky boys, and that it kind of all grew from there. But I can't believe that it's 20 years. It's so crazy.
It's wild. It's wild. Are there any other projects that you can tell us about that you're working on for the future?
Well, I am hopefully going to be working on my much-needed tan. It's been a long grind. We just wrapped on Castle Rock. But other than that, I'm just kind of going around. My husband and we made a short film, so we're just kind of bouncing from festival to festival, which is a fun little vacation. Dressed up as work.
Well, it's been so much fun talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And you can catch season 2 of Castle Rock on Hulu October 23rd. Up next, all your puppy adoption questions answered.
Wow.